So the next two videos are on our notes not issued at face value. And there's two scenarios with that. One is the zero interest bearing, which we'll talk about here, and then the unreasonable interest rate, which we'll do in the next one. Okay, so first of all, zero interest bearing notes bear interest. They just don't have a stated interest rate. You might lend somebody $5,000, and then in 3 years they're going to pay you back with $6,000, okay? They haven't borrowed that money for nothing. The difference between what you lend or what the company lends and what they get back is the implied interest on that note. Okay, so here's where we have to figure out, you know, so the zero interest bearing is definitely, does have interest involved. It's just not a stated amount. So let's look at the example in the book. Jeremiah receives a 3-year, $10,000, zero interest bearing note, and the present value of the note is the cash paid to the issuer. And we know that the notes get reported on the books at their present value. So since we know the future value and the present value, we can compute the interest rate. This is where you go back to chapter 6. And remember, you can compute it either way. You can go use present value or future value. You may want to review that. But this is where you come up with what the factor is, and you have to go back to the table where, you know, you've got for 3 years, and then you find out what the interest rate is for that factor. Okay, so the difference between the two amounts, they're going to loan out $7,721.80, and they're going to get back $10,000. So the difference between that is going to be recorded as discount on notes receivable, and that's going to be the interest that is involved on this transaction. Okay, so let's see how we would set this up. Okay, let's go here. And the first thing, well, I didn't do that. Okay, so the first thing I do is round these so they make sense, so we're consistent. Okay, so basically, when you go to the tables, you're going to find that the implied interest rate on this note is 9%. And so what happens is the carrying value of the note starts out at the cash lent out, the 7722, times 9%. The interest revenue and the discount amortized is going to be $695 for that year. And you'll notice that, you know, as that discount on notes receivable is amortized, it ends up at the face value of the note and the amount of cash that will be received. This last number is usually a plug because it doesn't generally come out exactly perfect. So to the journal entries for it, when we get the note receivable, it's going to come on the books at $10,000. We are going to lend out the 7722 in cash, and we have the discount on notes receivable. And then at the end of year 1, we'll recognize $695 of that interest revenue. Then the carrying value goes from the 7722 up to the 8417. And so we compute the 9% on the 8417. And at the end of year 2, we recognize more interest, same for year 3. And at the end of the 3 years, the carrying value of the note is up to the 10,000. We've recognized all of the discount. How that works out is you're showing the face value of the note on the financial statement, but it's going to be note receivable less discount on notes receivable. So the carrying value is going to start out at that 7722. Okay? So if you want a little more practice on the zero interest bearing, brief exercise 7-8, and I'd refer you back to AC 201 to chapter 6, some of my notes there on if you have any problem computing the interest rate. And if you do have questions, just you know, let me know on that.